What's going on, everybody? Hope y'all are having a great day. Coming back here with another video. You know, I've been pumping out a lot of videos lately. More of just like storytelling videos, just kind of giving you guys a little bit of background about me instead of tournament videos. I've actually been doing YouTube for like quite a while, but a lot of them were just like music mashes and just kind of, I don't know, they're pretty corny videos, honestly. But I never really got into like how I got started or like my first boat or, you know, like any of that stuff. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of diving into like how I got to be where I'm at right now. This video is going to be about how I got started tournament fishing. Boy, I can make this really short. I can make it really long. But I started fishing at a really young age, like a lot of us did. A lot of it was bluegill and, you know, like bobber and a worm, that kind of stuff. You know, catching bluegills off the dock. And one of my first fish was a 14-inch largemouth bass. So that right there kind of started the bug for me as far as like the whole bass fishing side of things goes. But my mom worked in the marine industry. She worked at Mercury Marine here in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. She was in a management position, and I was super fortunate. I am very blessed to be able to say that I have traveled all over basically the eastern part of the United States and fished in a lot of different states. My first tournament was actually a saltwater tournament in North Carolina. It was a junior tournament. So basically 18 and younger, and then they divide you up into different age classes within that group. And I ended up finishing second in that tournament with a 27-pound king mackerel, and I got beat out by the last boat to come in, who brought in one over 30 pounds. That kind of lit the fire for me as far as like competitive fishing goes. I've always been a super competitive person. I played sports from as soon as you could until I was done in high school, basically. Wanted to go play college football. That just didn't happen because of some other unforeseen circumstances. But I can get into that in another video. So that's where I started to see that it was really cool to compete in fishing. I went on and fished with the Beatty family. So Scott Beatty was one of the service guys from Mercury, and then his two sons, Kirk and Cody, and then Scott's wife, Kathy, obviously. And I would travel with them and get to fish at least one tournament a year with them down in Jacksonville, the Greater Jacksonville King Mackerel Tournament, where it was a week of tournaments. There was a VIP tournament on Monday. There was the juniors tournament on Tuesday, the registration on Wednesday for the general tournament, and then the general tournament was Thursday and Friday. And heck, one year, I ended up being in the boat with him when we won the dang thing. So that was absolutely phenomenal. It was so cool to be a part of the team that was able to put that together. It was a morning that I will absolutely never forget as far as fishing goes. I mean, it was just nuts. It was nuts. And the next thing you know, we looked in the fish bag and we had two fish that for the total of both was well over 80 pounds. And then I caught one that was another 40 plus that we just let go. So it was an insane day on the water, to say the least. But obviously, all of that was in saltwater tournaments. All of my tournament experience up until the age of 14 was all saltwater tournaments. I got introduced to a bass club by a guy that my mom worked with, Jim Barzak, who is an absolute hammer in tournament fishing in Wisconsin and Minnesota. Jim Barzak catches a bass everywhere he goes. He's been really close to making the classic. He's a really good angler, super awesome dude. And he came to my mom and asked if I'd be interested in joining their bass club, which was the Oshkosh Bassmasters, and because they had a junior club at the time. And I jumped into that. And I remember the first tournament, it was scheduled on Mother's Day, and nobody wanted to show up. But the tournament director was still going to go fishing, and my mom saw that I was completely devastated because I didn't get to go fishing that day because that's all I wanted to do was go fish. He said, well, heck, I'm still going to go. If he wants to come, he can come with me. And his name is Chris Wenzel. And he literally took me under his wing after that day. We went out and we caught at least 100 bass that day fishing on the Winnebago system. I mean, it was one of those days where it was like every other cast you're getting a bite, and it was phenomenal. It was just so much fun. It was a blast. So I fished the junior part of that club, and then some team tournaments where he needed a partner, I would fish with him. So I was fishing, that was literally my introduction into tournament bass fishing. I'd been bass fishing on ponds and small lakes and off the banks for a long time. It's not like I was just fresh off of like saltwater tournaments and trolling, you know, where I'm not really casting or anything like that. No, I had been fishing the whole time when I'm back home, just not competitively. So like I was fishing ponds and refining skills and learning techniques and reading Bassmaster. I was obsessed with tournaments at this point. So I'm watching reruns of all the old tournaments. And around this time is when the Elite Series was starting. This was around 2006. So that was all happening. So it was this huge platform that Bassmaster put together. It was 11 tournaments at the time, 3 majors, and then you had the Classic. Like it was just a spectacle. And the year before the Elites, the E50s actually came to Wisconsin. They were on Lake Wissota up in Chippewa Falls, and we went up there and watched them. And that was when Kevin Van Dam was on his tear, where he won Louisville in Texas, and he caught the lake record, like an 11-pounder on a shaky head. And then he won Lake Wissota on a jerkbait, I don't know if it was a Rattling Rogue or a Rogue jerkbait at the time. Either way, he won that tournament, and then the next event was the Bassmasters Classic, and he went on and won that too on the jerkbait. So that was the time when I was really starting to get more like involved in the bass fishing world. And like this is all happening like at the same times, and that's when like I started fishing with the club, and we'd fish tournaments, and I was fishing team tournaments. Like at the time, Fishers of Men circuits was one of them that I would jump into with Chris. And then a lot of the junior club stuff, you know, qualifying for state. My first year fishing state, I think, that's when it was in lacrosse, and I ended up taking 6th place, I believe. Which obviously I wasn't happy with, because it's like, well, I'm here to win. Like, what the heck? Like, as that went on, you know, I just fished in a bunch of people's boats in the club and just learning different techniques, fishing with different people. I also was able to practice with Shaw Grigsby multiple times while he was getting ready to fish Elite Series tournaments. We went up to New York, and I fished on Lake Oneida with him. This is how crazy this actually is. So, originally from Wisconsin, and I had never caught a smallmouth until I went fishing with Shaw Grigsby. That's right. Never caught a smallmouth bass until I went fishing with Shaw Grigsby in New York on Lake Oneida. And it was really funny because after that, the following year, that's when I really started catching a bunch. Yeah, it's pretty wild to look back and think about that, because all these lakes around where I grew up, there's smallmouth in them. A lot of them anyway. And that's what started another obsession. So I was in the boat with a bunch of people, super blessed. Like, God graced me with a mother who was in the fishing industry and just really planted the seed and got me on the water fishing with a bunch of people in a bunch of different states, lakes, reservoirs, rivers, like all sorts of different things that I had seen. And you know, fishing in the club, getting to fish with a bunch of different people too. And then I get the Champion, my first boat. I just start fishing as much as I can. I'm on the water as much as I can, trying to learn as much as I can by myself. I'm still fishing the club, and at this point, I'm 19 to 20 years old, so I'm no longer fishing in the junior club anymore. I'm fishing in the adult club, and jumping in a couple, just like local tournaments, you know. We didn't have high school fishing at the school that I went to, and I was very much involved in other athletics like football and track, and I didn't start a high school fishing team. Like, it just wasn't really a super popular thing when I was going to high school. College fishing was just starting to get going. UW Stevens Point to the north of us, about 100 miles away. They had a very stout fishing program, but it still wasn't nearly as big as what it is now. So I went the club route. I was fishing in the clubs, and contending for Angler of the Year in the club. And then I started branching out and fishing BFLs. Still part of the club, but fishing BFLs, fishing local tournaments. I didn't even fish a full division of the BFLs my first couple of years. I was just jumping in, one here, one there. First couple ones were pretty good. And then, you have some other ones, because at this point, I'm not fishing with anybody else. Like, I'm fishing by myself for the most part. It made for some very challenging days on the water, but also super rewarding, because like when you figured it out, you figured it out. Like, nobody showed you where they were, you went and found them. And that was just super satisfying for me. Then I fished a full season of the BFLs in the Great Lakes Division, qualified for the regional on Table Rock, and went and fished the tournament on Table Rock. And this is my first time really traveling out of the state of Wisconsin by myself, going to compete in a bass tournament. And I did a lot of research, talked to a couple people, because you could get information, and just kind of had a game plan of what I was going to do. Truck breaks down on the way there. I end up only having, by the time it gets fixed, I end up only having, I think it was 2 whole days of practice. And the first day of the tournament rolls around. By the end of the tournament, I'm sitting in 10th place out of how many guys are in those BFL regionals. And it was one of those moments that it's like, okay. Like, just a bulb of confidence, It's like you're in the top 10 of the guys from all these different BFL divisions from all across the country, or that region, and you're in the top 10. Like, I was pretty like, holy crap, that's pretty awesome. Just a lot of confidence. Day 2 rolls around, I catch 1 bass, and my co-angler who's with me ends up sitting in 6th, because he put on a clinic behind me. So, was I discouraged? Yes, obviously, because that could have been me. If I would have caught those fish, I would have been sitting in the top 10. But at the same time, I found those fish. And I put him around those fish, and he was able to make it to the All-American through that event. He had a really good day 3, and I think he ended up in 6th place. Yeah, I think that's how it went. He ended up in 6th place in that tournament. And that just the light bulb kind of went off, because around home, I've never really been a super stellar, like, this guy's a Wisconsin hammer. He catches him everywhere he goes in Wisconsin. It's like, no, that's not me. I do pretty well in these tournaments, but I would say I was more consistent, like top 20s, just outside of the top 10. And like, that's just how I was. But when I traveled, that's when I had better tournaments. Even after catching 1 bass in that BFL regional, I think I still finished just outside of the money. I think I finished like 32nd place or something like that. I'll have to look it up to really let you know. But it wasn't like a terrible finish for my first time out of state bass fishing. And that just kind of gave me a lot of confidence. It's like, okay, you can travel. Like, you got this. If this is what you want to do, I think you should start actually pursuing it and going towards it. And obviously fishing professionally has always been something that I've wanted to do ever since I started competing in fishing, and then watching tournament fishing, growing up around it. Like, yes, you can make a living at this. Is it easy? Absolutely not. It's probably one of the hardest professions to get into and stay consistent at, because it's like this. Tournament fishing is a roller coaster. But it's always been something that I want to pursue, and this just kind of reinforces, like, you can travel and compete. Like, go for this. So I started fishing a bunch more local tournaments back home. I was literally fishing anywhere from 20 to 25 tournaments every single year. Now I know, like, down south, y'all can fish like 40-some tournaments, 50-some tournaments a year. At that point, we didn't have a lot of like Tuesday night tournaments. And it's frozen up here a lot. So you gotta play when the water's open, I fished a ton. I doubled up on weekends. Like, I did everything I could to try and gain as much experience in the front of the boat as I could. just being on the trolling motor, being the one making the decisions. It's kind of all history from there, because then I fished my first year of the Bassmaster Opens in the Central Division. I got my teeth kicked in. That was a real eye-opener. Like, holy crap, yeah. These boys play at a different level. But obviously, like, I'm hungry, I'm angry, especially after that year, and I wanted another shot. So I tried to sign up for the next year, and I couldn't get in. It's like, gosh dang it, all right, fine. Then I hit up my buddy Laker, and I'm like, hey, you think there's a shot I can get into the Central Division of the Toyotas? And he's like, well, if you get a co-link, I'm sure you can. So that's what I did. I went and got a co-link. So basically you link up with a co-angler, so it solidifies both of your spots in the series. It was a stellar schedule. It was Gunnersville, Dale Hollow, and Chickamauga. I'd never been to any of those places until those tournaments. I ended up finishing 4th in Angler of the Year for the Central Division of the Toyota Series, and that qualified me for the Pro Circuit, which later on turned into the Invitationals. So I qualified for the Invitationals, fished that for a year. You know all the changes that happened with Major League Fishing. A lot of different stuff was going on, shake-ups and all that. So that's when I decided to make the switch back to Bassmaster, and I fished in the EQs this past year. That's kind of it, guys. Like, that's how I got into tournament fishing. It's never a straight road for anybody. There's a bunch of different paths now. My suggestion to you guys getting into tournament fishing, take advantage of co-anglers, or of being a co-angler in some of these tournament series. Learn as much as you can. Be a sponge. Try to soak up all the knowledge that you can to put yourself in a great position. If this is what you want to do one day and you want to go out and travel the country and compete in large tournaments, you have to learn so much to be successful. It's not easy. I'm not going to say it's easy, because it's not. I mean, I still learn. Every single time I'm on the water, I still have to learn. And I do. I still make mistakes. I take my lumps. This whole past season, all of 2024, I took a lot of lumps, but I'm still learning. I'm still trying to become the best angler that I can. And that's the cool part about fishing, is you can do it for so long and think you're so good. And you can ask any of the guys that have been doing it for decades, and they'll still tell you, yeah, we don't know everything, because it's always changing. You're chasing something that's wild, living in its environment, and you just try to figure it all out. It's a giant puzzle. When you put the pieces of the puzzle together and you have a great day on the water, a really good tournament, it is so satisfying. So just take advantage of everybody around you, surround yourself with a bunch of really good fishermen, and do everything you can to absorb all the knowledge that you can. So guys, thanks for watching. If you got any questions, let me know. I'll drop all the links for all my sponsors down below. Feel free to head on over, check them out. If you like what I'm doing, let them know, support them. They support me. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it. We'll catch you on the next one.